Welcome in, everybody. It is another episode of Scarves at Spikes. Postseason for Atlanta is well in gear, but playoffs are not over yet. The MLS playoffs are not done. So we're here, and we're going to be here all offseason talking about it. But we've got a busy show today, and a pretty cool show, really cool guest. But Sydney, my man, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. Hope you had a great holiday with you and your family, and yeah, hope everyone out there watching and listening also had a great Thanksgiving. Tommy ate too much turkey. That's why he's not here. So, no, just kidding. He's a little under the weather, but we hope to have him back next time. But yeah, how's your Thanksgiving? Good.
That was great. I mean, last name Pilgrim, so it's got to be great, right?
Yeah.
No, like legit, this was probably like the best Thanksgiving food we've ever done.
Nice.
And I feel like every year it's, most of the same stuff, but we've been refining things over the past, I mean, as long as me and my wife have been together, 15 years, and it's getting better. And this one was like chef's kiss, man. It was so good. It was great Thanksgiving.
What's your favorite dish?
Oh man. So I always got to give a shout out to the turkey because it's a smoked turkey. I reminded everybody to brine their turkey on the last episode.
Yes,
if you didn't, I'm sorry that you missed out, but no, the turkey is good. And my wife makes this like mean sweet potato, like casserole. It's really like a dessert, but it's not. And that's good stuff. What about you?
I can just taste it right now. I'm a big mac and cheese fan. Man, I like it all. But mac and cheese is pretty much up there. It's got to be like homemade mac and cheese, not the box mac and cheese, but homemade.
No, do not bring box mac and cheese.
Not the Thanksgiving. You can have that any time of day, any time of year, except Thanksgiving and maybe Christmas. But yeah, thanks as always for listening. Thanks as always for watching. If you're watching this live, leave a message in the chat on YouTube or on Twitch. If you're watching on X, leave a reply in the tweet. Or if you're watching or listening after the fact, just let us know. Tweet us and leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe. And yeah, it does help us out a lot. Tyler, we do have a great guest coming up. Why don't you tell everyone who it is?
We do. Famous name in the soccer community, especially in the United States. He's been around for quite some time. Went and did his hosting career, started his hosting career doing things with the Rapids, but famous men's national team player in MLS for a long time. Legend Marcelo Balboa. So he's going to be on with us in a little under a half hour or so.
Yeah, really excited for Marcelo. Obviously no introduction needed. Major part of the U.S. men's national team during his time playing, and former Rapids commentator. Now with MLS season pass as a match analyst for their Spanish team. So yeah, really excited for Marcelo. Get his thoughts on the playoffs, how things are going so far. He'll be calling the conference final with LAFC and Houston, so he'll be there at BMO Stadium this weekend. But we'll catch up with Marcelo a little bit later on and get his thoughts on how things are going. But yeah, we got to pay some bills, I guess. Pay some bills as we like
they
to say
say.
around here. Not literally, but as we like to
I
say.
mean, it's close enough. So where do we start? Obviously, Patreon. Guys, go check out patreon.com/scarves and spikes. We have a variety of content going on there. Obviously, we did our playoff predictions. I did an hour-long monologue on Bayern Munich because of the trip that I recently took. So if you're bored one day and you want a show and tell episode, go to the Patreon. Go check out the stuff from Allianz Arena. That was really fun, really neat to share. But obviously, tons of Atlanta United content, tons of MLS content. So you get discounts. We got more merch coming, but you get discounts and just special things that are for patrons. That's what Patreon is for.
Yeah, and scarvesandspike.com is our website. Link to our store. As you said, Tyler, merch is coming. We have stickers, but we are adding more merchandise soon. We're trying to get that worked out within the next few weeks here. So yeah, go ahead and head our website if you can. And today's a special day, by the way, Tyler. You know what today is?
I do know what today is. What is today, Sydney? Tell them all.
So Wednesday, November 29th, 2018, was when Atlanta United won the Eastern Conference Finals over the New York Red Bulls. So that's the day they clinched. And 5 years ago, as we're recording this podcast, is when that happened. So Tommy actually reminded us. It came up on his Facebook memories. It seems like distant memories, man. That was pre-COVID. Gosh, it seems like a whole new world back then. But yeah,
it's wild.
Happy 5th anniversary. Happy 5th anniversary.
And good things happened. Good things happened shortly thereafter. So it was a good year. 2018 was a good year.
Yes, it was.
All right. So we've got a couple things to talk about. We got some news to talk about. We obviously are going to get into the playoffs. We have some Atlanta United stuff to discuss. But because we also have time, I'm going to answer a question real quick as the pilgrim and the professional Thanksgiving person here. Colonel. Bought a pre-brined bird, smoking it tomorrow. Thoughts? Here are my thoughts. It's great as long as it's got brine. Still try to brine it if you can, because it'll make it that much better.
Brining a pre-brined bird?
Yes. Well, because here's the thing. All right, they pretty much any turkey comes in a brine. Any poultry comes in a brine, right? But you really, really do the brine with like the allspice and the thyme and the rosemary, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
Like that's
I see what you're doing.
That's where it goes. All right. So then you put it on the smoker for a couple of hours, smoking low temperature, and then you crank it up and let it cook to about 170, and then you have the best turkey you'll ever eat in your life, and it's so good.
Okay, I see where you're going. You're speaking my language.
There you go.
But yeah,
maybe that's the edition.
There you go. That's a new. That's a Patreon episode. Future Patreon episode. But no, like you said, we have some news, and yeah, let's get started. Big news coming from MLS over the past few days. Best 11 was announced, and no big surprise. Thiago Almada and Yorgos Giakoumakis named to the best 11. Almada in the midfield slot and Giakoumakis striker spot. A few days before MVP was announced, and Lucho Costa, as we imagined, won MVP, but Almada and Giakoumakis did make that best 11. I mean, again, Tyler, no big surprise there. The two of them were always going to make it. Giakoumakis making really immediate impact on the attack for Atlanta United. Dealt with a little injury here and there, of course, that kind of hampered his progress throughout the season. But just whenever he was on the field, pretty much he made an instant impact. Same with Almada. Maybe his season didn't end with the best of form. Didn't end with him playing the best soccer that we've seen him play, but still, nonetheless, he did make the list. Wanga made the list as well. Cucho, Acosta, of course, Achiache, Herrera, Mukhtar. On defense, Miazga, Parker, Zimmerman, and then Berkey in goal. That's the full best 11. But yeah, again, as an Atlanta United podcast, salute to Tiago and Yorgos for making the cut.
Yeah. I always wonder, because I'm nosy and I'm curious, like, what is their bonus when they make that? Because you always have bonuses on contracts for making team of the week or whatever. But like, what is it when you make the best 11? I want to know, because I know it's got to be a substantial amount of money. I would hope, right? But yeah, it's not a surprise. Giakoumakis, for the minutes that he played, was the best striker in the league. Now, obviously, Cucho was on the heels. Denny Bouanga is the one that took it as far as the golden boot. But in terms of minutes played, I mean, he was definitely the most efficient. And yeah, the injuries, they hampered him. I was about to say hamstrung, but I wasn't going to make it that much of a joke, that much of a pun. But no, it's look, I've been up since 4:30. Okay, I'm freaking tired, and we're after dark at this point.
Yes.
But no,
we are. I mean, daylight
savings. Freaking time change. Giakoumakis, though, is he'd been playing football for going on 2 years straight, because playing for Celtic, Champions League, the whole 9 yards, immediately comes over here and is slotted straight in. And yeah, I mean, he's going to be expected to deal with some injuries and things like that on and off. But
yeah,
he did great. He did outstanding. And Almada, we know what Almada can do. My only thing is I'm a little bothered that Almada barely got 2% of the media vote for MVP. That's crazy.
I tweeted it out the other day, and we actually have some breaking news. We'll get to that a little bit later. But I tweeted it out. I mean, I was a little surprised that, like you say, you got a little over 2% of the less than 2% of the media vote. But then I thought about it a little bit more. I was like, you know what? I think the media was going for FC Cincinnati because they won the Shield, and we're leaning a little bit toward Wonga as well because LAFC were the defending champions and they finished relatively well in the Western Conference. So I feel like that bias, for lack of a better term, was there. Not in a negative sense, but yeah, those teams had unequivocally better seasons than Atlanta United. FC Cincinnati, certainly, LAFC as well. But I figured, though, that it will still be a little bit more than he got. But it is what it is, It is what it is. But, he was always going to be on best 11. He is one of the best players in MLS when he's on his day. And like I said, unfortunately, maybe fell off in form just a little bit toward the season, end of the season. You would have loved to see him make a little more of an impact during the playoffs. Of course, he didn't play in the first match, so there's that. But at the same time, he was out there. I mean, he had an impact, of course, on the home match, but you would have loved to see him have a bigger impact on that do or die match 3. So good on Tiago, as we said, good on Yako, and MLS best 11 players. And let's hope that with Yako healthy and with Almada, maybe here during the summer, we'll see. We'll see what happens in the overseas transfer market. This team can really break through and become a force to be reckoned with in the Eastern Conference. But Tyler, we have breaking news. This literally just happened as we're recording this.
Yeah, and this will be really good to talk with Marcelo about, considering the playoff conversation. Look, I'll read it. So we all know what happened with Matt Miazga a few weeks ago, with the whole thing with the referees, where he allegedly followed referees into the locker room and then into their locker room, or tried to go in their locker room.
Mm-hmm.
MLS Disciplinary Committee has suspended FC Cincinnati defender Matt Miazga for 3 matches and issued an undisclosed fine for his misconduct following Cincinnati's match against the Red Bulls on November 4th. Additionally, Miazga will undergo a behavioral assessment through the Substance Abuse and Behavioral Health Program and may petition for a reduction in suspension based on continued commitment and compliance with any recommended treatment programs. Now, here's the big thing. The suspension will be served during the remainder of Cincinnati's games during the 2023 MLS Cup playoffs, with any remaining suspension served during the 2024 MLS regular season.
Yeah. So, long story short, he's done for the year.
Yep.
So even if Cincinnati makes the MLS Cup, or makes MLS Cup, he's done. He can't play. But yeah, you wondered if part of you wondered if he would get a longer suspension. I mean, he got the red card, obviously, or the yellow card, I believe. But yeah.
But what did I say? What did I say then? I don't know if you remember.
What did you say? Remind me.
I said, if you go and you do that, right? You follow referees off the pitch into the locker room, into their locker room, whatever. It has to be minimum 3 games. And I only say that because you look at what happened to Almada back in 2022 against Columbus at the Benz, and they got into it, right? The ref was just kind of all over the place. There was some clear frustration with the players going on, and he goes at the very end of the match, and he kind of bumps into the ref, a little bit of a shoulder bump as they walked by each other, whatever, right? It is what it is. But he got suspended for 3 games for that. So in the spirit of consistency, I mean, you can't not give Miazga what you gave him. And I hate it, at all, because you get to the playoffs, especially, and you want to see the big players, right? You want to see the big names. And now here you are going into the conference finals and potentially MLS Cup, and one of your best defenders is not going to be there. No matter what happens. Essentially, there's no way he's coming back this season.
Yeah, that's big for FC Cincinnati, and you wonder what they'll do to fill his spot. I mean, they did the previous night in the conference semifinals. They filled his spot pretty well, but now you have to plan for him missing this match coming up, and then for MLS Cup if they make it that far. So Matt Miazga suspended effectively for the remainder of the season for his actions after the Red Bulls match. Moving on.
Yes.
To Atlanta United.
Back to Atlanta. So really quick, because I definitely want to revisit that with Marcelo, because I'm just curious from his perspective, being one that's covered the entire league. Kind of, I don't know that we've ever had we've kind of gotten lucky this year, I think, with having like breaking news happen like right before the show.
Right after the show too.
Yeah, or after the show, but never like right when a guest is about to get on to where it's relevant for the guest to talk about. So Marcelo, I don't know if you're like getting ready to get on here or anything, but I just bring your Matt Miazga news.
Right. Speaking of defenders, which Balboa was one as a player, Efrain Morales is back with Atlanta United, re-signing with the team. His contract was initially declined, but the club did bring him back on Wednesday this morning. And he'll be part of Atlanta United for 2024. He also has an option for 2025 and 2026 as well. So, I'm thinking, what does this mean for the defense in 2024? And how can he affect the first team in 2024? That's more of a rhetorical question, right? Because he spent so much time with MLS Next Pro. He spent time with Atlanta United. And look, we were talking about some of these core players that have come through Atlanta United, Wiley being one of them, Jay Fortune, Noah Cobb to a lesser extent, and now Morales, who, again, the club initially declining his contract, but then bring him back. So we don't know if they were still in negotiations with him. I don't know if that's what happened or not, but he'll be back with Atlanta United at least for 1 year, with the club looking to pick up this option 2025 and 2026. Tyler, that tells me that they have plans for him this season or this coming season, especially with Miles Robinson with one foot out the door, all but gone from Atlanta United in 2024. I mean, he's not going to start every match, if at all. Maybe throw him in for a few cup matches, maybe bring him in later on in some matches to get his feet wet. But he's been a part of the Atlanta United system since he was, I think, 12 years old. Carlos was saying in the release. But I feel like they have plans for him beyond this year, and they're seeing how things work out in 2024 before making that full decision. So that's what I got out of it. I'm curious what you think where Efrain fits in next year.
I think for me, first of all, having watched Ephraim for the couple of years, really that he's been involved with the twos and everything, he has lots of growing, not physically, I mean, but he does. He's actually way taller than he's shot up. Let me put it that way. He's like Noah Cobb.
6'3", yeah.
Yeah. But no, I think he has grown immensely. And you look at a kid who has kind of played all over the backfield. He's played as a 6. He's played as a center back. He's played kind of all over the place in that back line. I think he's even been used a couple times as wing backs. So he's kind of finding his footing, no pun intended, in terms of what position he's going to be. But I think what I got out of this is you have a kid who clearly has talent and clearly still has some growth to do, but clearly has talent. And you have so many question marks with Atlanta's center backs with their 6 position right now. He is a great option to have there just in case. And I think you see him get used this coming season, probably in a lot of the ways that Noah Cobb got used this season. Like you said, cup matches, whatever moments that he can make an appearance in. Hopefully we have more matches to where Atlanta can afford to bring in, some of their young guys for the final 20 minutes of a game or whatever. That I would like to see that, but that's just the icing on the cake. I think ultimately you're going to see Ephraim as just a guy that's going to come in, A, when he's needed, or B, when they have the luxury of doing so. And then maybe a couple of starts here and there, probably very rarely. But I think ultimately he's going to get loaned back to the twos is what's going to happen. And that's where he's going to get most of his time. So
that's what I was just thinking. They didn't mention he'll be loaned back to the twos as of yet. So I don't know if that's a later date thing or if that's the plan, but I'd imagine that is an option, just to send him back down there, get him some playing time with the twos, and then bring him back up. Like you said, as needed on those 4-day deals, like we said, around U.S. Open Cup, Leagues Cup, what have you. So it's good to see Ephraim being brought in. He was called into Ecuador's training camp for World Cup qualifiers.
Bolivia.
That's Ecuador. Sorry, Bolivia. For their World Cup qualifiers. So.
And that's the big thing.
So it's good to see him get that national team exposure. I mean, he didn't play, but he still got that exposure, which is
but he has played though. That's the thing. Over the past year, I think, or so, he's gotten call ups, and he's actually been a part of that team and been around the club. Around the camp when they're having it. Right. So I think, again, Ephraim's got a lot of growing up to do. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean naturally he just needs that.
Well, he's young.
Yeah, he's young and he just needs experience. But I think also, I personally feel like he's probably one of the more underrated twos players in the sense that, you see, because Atlanta has done a very good job of bringing up defenders in the past, whether it's wing backs or center backs. We'll look at Miles. But he kind of, to me, has gotten a little lost in the shuffle with guys like Noah Cobb recently. And then, George Campbell to an extent going back a couple of years and all. And so I think don't sleep on him. I think he absolutely has the talent to be a great depth piece at minimum for this club.
Yeah, definitely. And interested to see what the future holds for him in 2023. But yeah, he is a homegrown, and Atlanta holds on to him at least for another year. Again, Bolivia, not Ecuador.
Yeah, Bolivia, not Ecuador.
But yeah, so that happened again this morning on Wednesday. So Ephraim back in the fold. As far as other rumors, Tyler, nothing really coming down the pike. I know outside of Atlanta United, Tom Barlow reportedly traded to the Chicago Fire. Tom Bogert reporting that. But as far as Atlanta United, nothing as of yet. I imagine things are going to heat up pretty soon as things as the players kind of died down, as teams kind of determine, okay, who are we bringing back? Who aren't we bringing back? I don't have the MLS off-season calendar in front of me right now. I'm gonna try to pull it up right now. In fact,
Well, I was really surprised why you pull that up.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's kind of telling to me. If you go back to some of our conversations, obviously on this show, and then on the Twitter Spaces and things that we did last year and this year too, you look at the way that this team has kind of been planning things since Garth Lagerwey got here, and we said it. Garth knows the game. He's not just sitting there waiting for Thiago Almada to get traded and then looking like, oh, what do we do now? Like, he's gonna have his steps planned out, way ahead of time. He's gonna have a list of players to replace every player that's on this team already. But you go to what was it, a couple of days after. I was in Germany at the time, so my mind is all frazzled. But it was like what, 2 or 3 days after Atlanta got bounced from the playoffs that they dropped the information that all the roster moves that they could do at the time or announce at the time. That was quick. You look at what I think it was St. Louis that just dropped theirs today or maybe yesterday, and it just seems like they really, really had everything planned out so that they could get a jump start on whatever negotiations or whatever else they've got to do between now and when they can start making some actual trades. And yeah, like you said, you've got the calendar coming up. There's a lot that can happen between now and the beginning of the year.
Yeah, so the trade window opens December 11th, so there's still time for that. So that Barlow deal that Todd Boogert reported between Chicago and the Red Bulls, that won't come official until the 11th, but teams obviously can still signal their intent through their agents to trade players. So December 11th, waivers December 12th, and the free agency opens on December 13th. So leading up to that, that's in 2 weeks. So leading up to that, you're going to hear a lot of maybe rumors, some tied to Atlanta United, some tied to other teams, right? Again, as the playoffs end, as MLS Cup ends, as teams figure out who they're bringing back for next year, who they're not bringing back. So we're a little bit of our slow season right now, our slow period right now. So as things kind of ramp up within the next few weeks, that's when we'll kind of start to hear those rumors and those reports of player X going to club X and player Y going to club Y and players being traded, so on and so forth. So while things are quiet, they're going to start to get really heated up within the next few weeks. So we'll obviously be here. Any rumors, any buzz that we hear, we'll try to make sense of it all. Even if it's someone like Hector David Martinez from River, who is not coming here, according to Carlos Bocanegra a few weeks ago. Yeah, shot down rather quickly. He normally says, we're not going to talk about players that are under contract. He normally says that, but he straight up said, we're not pursuing him. So
yeah,
that was something. Yeah, I don't know if that was something put out by his agents or something like that, as it's what to happen around this time of year, but it's not happening.
I mean, we call it silly season for a reason.
Yeah. So. Any legitimate transfer rumors, we'll try to make sense of them. Now, if it's something coming from an account with like 500 followers, we're going to kind of be skeptical. But if it's like Tom Boogert or Fabrizio Romano or somebody like that, there's credence to that. And Cesar Luis Merlo is the other guy I was thinking about. So
yeah,
those
that's
guys
the big one for Atlanta.
Know what they're talking about.
Get that South American stuff going on.
Yeah. Now, like XYZ 000152 with an egg emoji or egg profile picture and 50 followers.
Yeah.
We're pretty skeptical of that.
You got to get your start somewhere, right? You got to get your start somewhere.
What do you think, by the way, of the possibility of MLS adding a fourth DP? It's kind of gathered some steam here. And that's going to be voted on in a few weeks in the owners' meetings. I'm for it. That's just my short.
Yeah. Opinion. I mean, I don't know who, short of certain owners, that would be against it. I think look, MLS, you literally are sitting on the catapult ready to be launched. You just have to take the right steps to do it. And this is it. Like, Messi is here. You have the opportunity now to allow some of the big spenders, the Atlanta Uniteds, the LAFCs, the Seattle, maybe not Seattle, but whatever. They do well without spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
But, at the Miami's, obviously. But you get a lot of these big spenders to just take the gloves off, or at least give them an extra finger to, having their glove with the fourth DP, like something. Just open up the rules a little bit. I'm not saying you have to completely rip the Band-Aid off, because I do understand the argument behind not wanting to do that. I get parity and I get that argument for sure. However, 3 DPs is stuck at the past. And if you ever want MLS to be able to compete legitimately with anywhere else in the world in terms of consistent talent coming here at their prime, you have to do this. You have to do this. At minimum, you have to do this. I mean, raise the cap as well. Do some other things. But at minimum, allow that fourth DP spot, because that would be huge.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not going to be as easy as, saying, okay, here's spot number 4. Do with it what you will. There's going to be like a lot of back and forth around specifics and what that will look like. The DP limit, the TAM limit, things like that. So there'd be some haranguing around that, what that will look like. And I suspect that, a lot of teams will use it. I mean, Arthur Blank has a lot of money, of course. We know that. So we know that he will be planning to use it. I mean, you mentioned Seattle, Garth Lagerwey. Seattle didn't splash around a lot of money when Garth was there, and like he said, they did well, and they still are doing well. But their owner, Adrian Hanauer, isn't poor. But yeah, I think with a lot more money and with a lot more resources behind them, I think Garth Lagerwey is gonna really value that, and he's not gonna leave that money sitting around to do nothing with. Yeah, I say Carlos too.
I mean, yeah, for sure, and I think you have, we've talked about it, having Carlos, because I understand the criticism. We've all had the criticism of Carlos over the years. I understand it. We also all, I think you got to give him credit where it's due, because he's hit on some guys for sure. But you have a guy that can go out and find that kind of talent, even when maybe before it wasn't the best fit. He still went out and found some really good talent. The pieces just didn't all fit together. But now you've got a guy who, I don't know, maybe has a little bit more of a vision in terms of like long-term and how you're going to make all of these rules work to your advantage, because he did it with much less of a budget at Seattle than he has here in Atlanta. And, I think the team that they've got is really, really, really good. I mean, we look at Atlanta's transfer window, right? Look at Muyamba. Look at, really everybody during this window hit in some way or another. Curious to see what happens with Shande Silva, because I do understand maybe the argument that his form dropped a little bit at the end of the season, but I still think he's one of the better wingers that the team has had. Not the best, but he's up there. He had plenty of moments where he was game changer, and that's what you've been wanting from your attackers. So I'm curious to see what they do with a full offseason, and the fourth DP spot, if that comes to fruition, that's just icing on the cake.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll probably talk about that with Marcelo as well. Still waiting on him. He'll be in shortly, we hope. But while we wait, anything surprise you about the conference semifinals at all?
No.
Anything jump out or?
No, not really. I mean, I think it was, I don't want to say that they were kind of blah matches. I think they were a set of teams playing, their respective matches, knowing good and well that any mistake would be what cost them the season. And I think that's why you didn't see a lot of maybe the drama that you would come to expect from some matches. Now I understand there were some missed calls or some arguments on some calls here and there, but
some.
Yeah, some, just a couple. But I think as far as like the way the games played out themselves, I think it was very conservative from every team. But that's what you have to do, right? I mean, again, Atlanta podcast, we go back to 2018 and Atlanta was scoring left and right, winning games left and right, and then the playoffs come and they had to change it up a little bit to squeak through the playoffs. And they changed up everything and beat the Red Bulls. Hey, happy Eastern Conference Day. Because you have to be pragmatic in the playoffs or you're going to get bounced. And if you can't be pragmatic, if you can't pull out a plan B or C or whatever, then you're not going to make it very far. And I think that's what we saw out of all the teams that did win. They just had that extra little bit of, magic in the bag.
Or Orlando came inches away from winning it in normal time.
Yeah.
Inches. And that was with them being down a man. Eventually, they came, Columbus kind of wore them down and put the game really out of reach. But I was surprised how Orlando was kind of sticking to it. Columbus was trying to decide whether or not they wanted to blow it or not. I mean, they're just really sloppy with the ball and, just couldn't really take firm hold of the match until, extra time rolled around. So that kind of surprised me. Cincinnati got that goal late, so they moved on. I thought they would. I thought it'd be a little more high scoring than that.
Yeah.
I thought they'd have a few more goals in them. So that took care of that. Houston, I thought, would get through, and they did. Actually, Sporting Kansas City, I thought would get through, and they ultimately didn't. That's the big one, the handball that Sporting Kansas City thought should have been called, and they're very honest about it. Very honest, saying, this should have been a handball for sure, and I think I agree with them. So they're going to be feeling, or they felt really hard done by the referee in that situation.
Read Peter Vermees's lips.
Yeah, exactly. And then LAFC winning against Seattle, which wasn't much of a surprise to me. Out of Seattle, though, I thought would be a little bit more up for it, but ultimately they did not make it through. So yeah,
every match
was tight,
very tight. I mean, Columbus and Orlando was the only one that was a 2-goal match, right? Like every other one was 1-0, and I thought Orlando would put up more of a fight at home. My predictions have gone haywire. Shout out to Tommy because I think he hit 4-on-4.
Got them all, yeah.
Yeah. Really thought Orlando could do it, but everything else, I mean, you more or less expected. SKC, I kind of just had that hope that they were going to have that dream run, considering how badly they started off the season. But and like we said, LAFC and Seattle could have gone either way, and ultimately it's LAFC. Now, I'm curious to see how, now that they're 2 games away from a repeat, how LAFC handles the pressure. But I think this matchup that they have is very much in their favor. So
yeah, they're at home for one.
Yeah,
and like you said, they're defending MLS Cup champions, so maybe that works out in their favor versus that being pressure for them. But then Columbus and Cincinnati, I mean, hell is real for a trip to the MLS Cup, for a chance to host MLS Cup. Winner of the Eastern Conference host, regardless, due to them having more points than either team on the West. So that's going to be off the chain. And I think the MLS purists who value these rivalries, who values these derbies, is going to really anticipate this. I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be really wide open. I think it's going to be a terrific match. And I can't wait for that to take place. TKO Stadium, such a great venue, such a great crowd, such a great fan base for FC Cincinnati that they have built up there, and a really good team. So I think we're going to do predictions after the show, or
I mean, look, here's the thing. I think, because I know Marcelo's got stuff going on, and he's getting ready for this match this weekend. So understandably, running around, I'm sure, like a chicken with his head cut off. So, Colonel, I see you. I got to believe in Houston. I want to believe in Houston. I do. It's just tough. I don't want LAFC to win back to back. I really don't. But, you know, I got to give them credit. Got to give them credit. No, we can talk about it now, do predictions now, and we'll just swap it up and do this backwards because why not?
Okay. I'm probably just gonna be straightforward because I'm like that sometimes. But yeah, let's start with the East. Cincinnati and Columbus. You know, we talked about Hell is Real. Talked about this being at TQL, a venue that Cincinnati barely lose at, if ever. Talk about the talent level that Cincinnati has, the talent level that Columbus has. Columbus, of course, midfield of Jonathan Nagby and Aiden Morris has really become a really good player, really young player for them, for Columbus. And then, of course, Couture Hernandez. And then for Columbus, you look at, of course, Acosta, the reigning MVP, just got named to the MVP. Missing Miasco, of course, as we mentioned, for the remainder of this playoffs, and how they cope with that. Who else can step in? But I think, all that said, I think Cincinnati will win. I think Cincinnati, of course, have proven that they are strong at home. They'll have the crowd behind them, and they'll be able to come out of this rivalry, this derby, with the win ultimately to host MLS Cup, which is something that we didn't think we'd be saying 3 years from now, with them winning multiple wooden spoons in a row.
Golden spoons, baby.
Golden spoons, yeah. No, multiple wooden spoons in a row. So I think Cincinnati out of the East, and I think LAFC out of the West. I think LAFC with Bouanga, with Vela, with the attacking prowess that they have, with the team that they have, Crepol in net, I think is better than Houston. That's not to say I don't think that Houston could spring a surprise on the road. I think Ben Olsen hasn't playing in a very good way at this time. He's done wonders with them, and the front office has brought in really good players to get them to where they are right now. They, of course, won the U.S. Open Cup, and yeah, they're going for the double themselves, just like Cincinnati is. So I think, all that said, I think LAFC does win that match, and we get Cincinnati LAFC MLS Cup, and I won't predict that yet because that is coming soon. So what do you think?
I think it's going to be Columbus over Cincinnati, and I'll tell you why.
Why?
Because of Atlanta. So if you go back the past couple of seasons, right? The team that beats Atlanta in the playoffs has a knack of going forward and at least making it to MLS Cup. And I just feel that it's going to be Columbus, because here's the thing. Columbus has the confidence right now. Columbus has everything going for them. They've won on the road against Orlando in pretty emphatic fashion. They, it was a tough series against Atlanta, but it was one that they handled fairly well, right? They've been playing really good soccer this season. And I just don't think there's a reason to doubt them. Now, Cincinnati, yes, Supporter Shield winners, understand that. You have the Miazga situation going on, which is just one more little thing that you got to kind of have in the back of your head. But I just think Columbus has the right pieces, and historically, and it's kind of hard to look at this historically because, like you said, Cincinnati was wooden spoon for 3 years in a row, but Columbus has historically had the better of this series. I mean, they're 6-4-3, 6 wins, 4 draws, 3 losses. Most recent one, Columbus whooped Cincinnati on August 20th, 3-0. And then Cincinnati had them. Yes.
On the road?
Was that on the road? That was.
I think it was
at lower.com.
We would have heard more about it if it were at
that was at lower.com. Cincinnati beat them in May 3-2. They had a draw last year. Columbus won last year, and Columbus won in 2021. Those are the last 5 meetings. So, I don't know. My heart and my brain says Columbus on this one.
Okay.
And then going over to the Western Conference, my heart wants to say not LAFC, but my brain says LAFC. I just I think Houston's got some magic in them for sure, but I just don't know if they're going to be able to pull it off with everything that they've got going on with LAFC. When LAFC finds their form, they had that stretch of games coming out of, was it Leagues Cup or was it Open Cup? I don't remember.
LAFC. I think it was CONCACAF Champions League, or
maybe it was. Maybe it was the hangover. I don't know. Anyway, but they came out of one of the mini competitions they played this year because they played a lot, and it was kind of rough for them for a little bit, and it took them a while to kind of get over it. Nashville never got over it.
Yeah, exactly.
But LA,
they forgot how to score.
Yeah, totally forgot how to hit the back of the net in any way. So yeah, I just think LAFC they've kind of got the train rolling a little bit, and I think ultimately they're going to be the ones to go forward. And then I'll save my final prediction for next week, but I think it'll be Columbus LAFC. But that hell is real derby for an Eastern Conference final is freaking sweet. That is going to be awesome to see. I'm super excited about that.
I think that could go to penalties.
Yeah,
that might go to penalties. I think if it goes to penalties, I think Columbus could win that one in penalties, but I think Cincinnati will win it in normal time.
Yeah,
in 90 minutes. So, yeah. So I say Cincinnati LAFC. You say Columbus LAFC. So we both say LAFC are getting through, but we differ on who they'll be playing. But again, whoever they're playing will be in the Eastern Conference because both teams have.
And Tommy says, Tommy agrees with me, or he'll probably say I agree with him because he's been right about the other predictions. But whatever, he's not here to defend himself. Right. Tommy agrees with me that it's going to be Columbus and LA. But the thing is, like, this match, with it being a derby, a legit, like, we talk about derbies all day in MLS, right? From an Atlanta perspective, we have the manufactured Orlando thing. We have what I think is probably one of the best ones right now, which is Atlanta and Nashville. Of course, you have Atlanta and Charlotte, which has kind of been, still young. Then there was the good Red Bulls days. Happy Eastern Conference Day, by the way, again, for the third time. But no, I mean, this is an in-state big rivalry game. This is like, 2 hours away from each other. And I mean, what else can you ask for? Like, you have a soccer specific stadium. You've got, the playoffs. Like, this is going to be a big deal. And I'm super excited to see how both sets of supporters show up and show out, and kind of what the vibe is and what the environment is and the atmosphere, because you don't always get that. Even in like rivalry week, right? Like, MLS puts on rivalry week, and it's great. It really is. But also, like, sometimes you'll be having midweek games and things like that. And it's like, we can't get these places packed out for this. This is going to be a good one. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. And I think this is what MLS wanted, kind of what MLS wanted, right? These rivalries, these derbies to play out like this. And now we had LAFC, LA Galaxy last year. I was watching highlights of those. Now we have Hell is Real, so sort of one of those newer rivalries in MLS. And yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what plays out. Again, I think Cincinnati will win, but I think it's going to be pretty hard fought. So, yeah, may the best team win.
Yeah. Let's see.
So before we actually, I got something for you. We already talked about the fourth DP and all of that. Copa America, I mean, this is kind of old news, but we'll cover it anyway. Copa America coming to Atlanta. And I guess the big question is, what match gets played in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and a lot of talk is going to be U.S. Argentina. I mean, that'll be off the chain exciting. Messi finally playing in Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
No pizza.
He owes Atlanta. He owes the city of Atlanta after no showing last time, but it seems like it's trending toward that direction. Argentina, of course, the World Cup, defending World Cup champion. United States, of course, the host country of the tournament. So it would only be fair that the U.S. and Argentina would be that kind of showcase opening match in Copa America. And this would look at it as a test run for the World Cup. They'll be putting in grass in the stadium. That is a contingency to host the tournament at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But, yeah, that's going to be a hot ticket. That's going to be, 70,000 fans in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. U.S. fans, of course, Argentinian fans, and then just neutrals who are going to be in Atlanta for the spectacle. And I don't think Atlanta will host just the one match. They'll host multiple matches, I think, in the knockout stages, hopefully. But yeah, that feels like the natural fit, right? From a fan standpoint, from a neutral standpoint, and really, I mean, from a financial standpoint, I mean, it's all about the business, right? It's all about the money. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I know I'll be there, hopefully.
Yeah, I think, to your point, it just makes sense. It makes the most sense. Argentina's still riding high, and the world is still riding high from the fact that they got to see Messi do his thing in the World Cup. Finally made it. Now he can play with no pressure. And yeah, the U.S. they need a test run, and they need not only a test run for the stadiums and everything else, but they need some serious competition to get ready for 2026.
Yeah.
I just think, first of all, what's so wild? You go back and look 8, 9 years ago, 10 years ago. Could you have imagined that we would be having this conversation about Atlanta hosting not only the World Cup or being one of the host cities for the World Cup, but also being the inaugural match for Copa America? Like, that's crazy. And, I understand the whole turf grass argument, but when they brought the grass in for the Premier League matches in the summer, I thought it did well. Again, that stuff dies quickly. So it's not something that, that they're not going to be able to do it the same way that they did for the Premier League matches. It's going to have to be a more sustained thing. I imagine it's going to be maybe like the hybrid grass turf. I'm sure Arthur's going to shell out some Benjamins for some of the lighting to keep things growing properly and everything else. That's my quick take from the Allianz Arena in Munich. The way that they're growing that grass over there. I mean, it's freezing outside for a lot of their season.
Yeah.
And that grass is immaculate, because what you don't see is pretty much every moment that field's not being used, they have lights on it growing the grass nonstop, and they cut it multiple times a week with a push lawnmower, by the way.
Really?
Yes, a push. It takes them 4 hours to cut the grass at the Allianz, because it's literally two dudes with a push lawnmower, and because they want to be so precise and specific, that's how they do it. So I think it's probably going to be something similar in terms of like the lighting and everything else, but it's going to be a big test. I'm glad they did the Premier League thing to kind of get it ready and kind of give them an idea. But now you're going to have multiple matches, and then you're going to have 2026. The Falcons and Atlanta United are just going to be playing on grass for most of that calendar year, which is wild to think about. So it'll be, I'm excited though, just from a, if it is USA and Argentina, I expect to see a ton of blue and white and a ton of red, white, and blue. I think it's going to be about half and half, but 73,000 people in that place for Messi and, Pulisic and whoever else happens to be playing at the time, man. That'll be awesome.
Does MLS, and we kind of talked about this briefly, and this kind of is linked to the NFL and kind of their philosophy on playing surfaces. Does MLS kind of think, okay, let's mandate that all of our teams play on grass as a move toward bringing in, international names? Because you don't want another Messi situation. You don't want another Zlatan situation or anything like that. I mean, it's not unheard of for these quote unquote stars to play on artificial surfaces. They say they don't mind, but at the end of the day, they'd rather play on grass. But do you think that happens? I think a lot of it is contingent on what the NFL does, because you hear sort of these rumblings every so often around players not being happy with the surfaces due to injuries. So, granted, it's only 5 or 6 stadiums around MLS that play on artificial surfaces, Mercedes-Benz Stadium being one of them, and just about all of them, except for Portland, are owned by NFL teams. So that conversation, I think, will drive things in the future. I think. I mean, what do you feel? What are your thoughts on that?
I think this is an opportunity, again, from an Atlanta perspective, for a guy like Arthur Blank to maybe kind of lead the charge. And I say that because you got U.S. Soccer headquartered in Atlanta, and Arthur Blank was a big part of that because of the money that he put into it and everything. And so I think if you're looking at the way MLS wants to go forward, unfortunately, they're just not going to have the sway that the NFL is going to have, considering the fact that, like you said, a lot of these stadiums were originally mostly built for NFL teams.
Mm-hmm.
The Benz was designed with both in mind. And I understand there's some arguments here and there about like certain angles with the corners and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, like, the Benz is a good soccer stadium and it's a great football stadium. You can't say that about maybe all of them because they weren't designed that way. And that's not a knock on the teams that play there, the soccer teams that play there. It's just, that's what they have. Right. I think, though, as far as the surface is concerned, if you were to push it with your NFL team, then I think a lot of the other NFL teams and MLS teams by proxy are going to follow along, because you have Arthur Blank, who is standing here with, tons of money to throw out. And we know how much he wants soccer to grow in the South. He's already been putting so much into it. Again, the U.S. soccer thing is just one example. World Cup is another example. But this is an opportunity to not only make your soccer fan base happy, but also your NFL fan base, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but where do any of the players come out and say, yeah, I'd rather play on turf? Like, what is the benefit of turf other than it saves you money on like groundskeepers and stuff like that, right? Like, I don't understand the benefit really, besides maybe cost. But even then, you still have to have, a full-time team that's coming in and replacing the lines and everything else between NFL games and MLS games. So it's like, you're going to have groups out there doing work anyway. So why not just make it grass and be done with it? I mean, invest in the lighting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that's the big thing, is money. It's going to cost money to bring in manpower, money to maintain, money to put the stuff in there. So, like I said earlier, it's all about the Benjamins, right? It's all about the green. So, I think that's going to be the driving force. But it can't be like that expensive, like you said. So the deeper pocket owners, like your Arthur Blanks, like your Robert Krafts, your David Teppers, who own, stadiums, who own NFL teams and MLS teams. I mean, those are rich guys. Those are guys that have a lot of money, have a lot of cash to throw around. Unless you're David Tepper, you're paying coaches not to coach for you, or spending money on coaching searches.
I mean, we can go down that rabbit hole if we want to.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic. But yeah, I could see that happening. Eventually. I think it's gonna be driven, like I said, by NFL, and I think it's gonna take. I mean, we saw it We saw Aaron Rodgers get injured. Yeah, that's a big name in NFL circles. But
if you remember, that was right before Messi was supposed to come to Atlanta.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that discussion, we haven't heard the last of it. I think MLS is kind of keep an eye on those discussions to say, okay, this is what NFL is saying. Let's really take that to heart, and that's I feel like there's some credence to it with the injury situation, especially with older players wanting to come in, or not older players, but more well-known players wanting to come in and make their living in MLS instead of maybe the quote-unquote retirement age players. MLS has that stigma still of retirement leagues, so I think as MLS wants to shrug that off, they're going to have to make those investments to get to where they need to be. This kind of ties into what we were talking about with Copa America. Ariel saying, what do we think about Jesse Marsh's comments regarding the U.S. men's national team? And I said he's talking about when he was on CBS Sports the other day as part of their Champions League coverage. This being asked about U.S. men's national team, and Marsh saying, they don't have a gold signature win yet. They need that signature win. They need that win where you can look at it and go, yeah, that was an incredible performance. And he's pointing to Copa America against maybe an Argentina, against maybe a lower, quote-unquote, lower tier CONMEBOL team to get that win. So, yeah, I guess, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, do you kind of agree or...
Yeah, I mean...
with Jesse Marsh said?
I think I totally agree. This team has improved, right, by leaps and bounds, but it just doesn't feel like they've busted through at any point. I mean, you go back to the World Cup last year, and you fought out, and you really fought through some grueling, like, group stage matches. One that you probably should have won that you didn't, and then Pulisic goes down injured, with his groin or whatever you want to refer to it as so I just, in the World Cup, they did enough to, I feel like, get back in the fold, but I don't feel like the team is ranked. So let me put it this way. I'm sorry. The team is ranked where they're at now way higher than I feel like they deserve to be. And that's not a knock. I just think they have not been consistent enough. And to be fair, like, this whole coaching thing with Berhalter and everything else that went on after the World Cup and the circus that was going on did nobody any favors. But you have to get back to it now. And I don't know what team you play that you could consider a statement win. I mean, of course, Argentina would be huge, but good luck, right? Like, but no, I mean,
I'll say this right now, as it stands, U.S. is ranked above Germany and Mexico. So,
well, I mean, to be fair, Germany's fallen off the edge a little bit.
I know.
So, we will pick that conversation back up, though.
Yes.
So, got to say this real quick. We'll call it technical difficulties, communications difficulties, lots of moving things going on in MLS right now. But our good friend Marcelo Balboa is waiting in the wings. I don't want to keep him waiting any longer. So without further ado, we welcome the legend himself.
What's up, fellas?
How's it going?
Hey, how are you, Marcelo?
I was confused. I'm sitting there going, are they calling me? What am I doing? I was supposed to be at 5:30. So we worked out the technical difficulties. We're good.
We're good. We made it. We made it.
Well, glad to have you here. We really appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate it. I see we all have different shirts on. I like it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So there's actually a little bit of a relationship here. This one is actually Andrew Gutman's
Okay.
jersey, and he's a over there with you guys now. So
I didn't even know what to say about that.
he's loved here.
Okay.
But everybody that I buy a jersey for, they leave. So I guess it's a curse. I don't know.
Ooh, who are you going to buy next? Curious, just to get our hands on it.
I mean, no, well, I don't know. I want to go that far yet.
Right.
Maybe I'll get him to sign it, and then we'll talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
He's worth a lot of money right now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
We'll see how long he stays here. I don't think that one's going to be indicative of me buying a shirt.
There you go. All right.
Right.
So, all right, really quick, just to dive into it, because this news kind of hit right when we first kind of came on, but we have the Eastern Conference final, well, both finals coming up, but Miazga is now suspended. So, what are your thoughts? What does Cincinnati do?
You know, it's amazing sometimes how as athletes we get emotional and we lose our head. We don't think at the time of what the repercussions could be to yourself or to your teammates. And this is a big blow right before the Eastern Conference final, a big blow that if he could go back, I can guarantee you he would take it back. But at the time, it's an emotional game. And when you let your emotions run you, this is what happens. So Cincinnati still has a good team. They've got players that can fill spots, but you're missing your defender of the year. You're missing one of your captains. So this could come back and bite Cincinnati in the ass.
Do you think we'll kind of move on to both of the matchups a little bit later on. But do you think that Cincinnati can still make it through? I mean, I know you'll be calling the LAFC match on Spanish for MLS Season Pass. Do you feel like Cincinnati can kind of overcome this and make it through still?
They're the supporter shield winners, man. They're the number one team. They're playing at home. I mean, we're talking like they're dead in the water. I don't, you know what I mean? They got the reigning MVP. I mean, it's like they've got Pupenza. Should we keep going with Baji? They've got Barrial. I mean, we can keep going? Of course they can win. Of course they can win. They're the favorites right now. Let's be honest. The only thing they got to be careful of is, you know what? Columbus is a pretty damn good team, and Columbus can win on the road many different ways. So, I hate to say it. I always give the home team the advantage of Cincinnati because they're playing at home. But right now, I got to give Columbus a little bit of the advantage just because of you're missing that captain, you're missing your leader, you're missing the guy who has been there all year round. So I think right now you've got to get Columbus a little bit of the advantage because of what Matt Miazga's done. Yeah,
indeed. And I asked that because, the rivalry, I mean, it's a derby. It's going to be one part of Ohio versus another. So I feel like part of it is going to be throw the records out the window. But, I mean, like you kind of mentioned, obviously Cincinnati is just a very talented team.
Yeah,
I mean, he has 100%. Several weapons. They rarely lose at home. So I think that really works into their advantage.
Yeah. Well, the problem is now, do they switch? Do they go to 4 in the back now without Miazga controlling the middle? Because they play 3. Yeah. They play 3 in the back, 3 center backs. So now tactically, does Pat Noonan have to switch up? Can he stay with 3 in the back and be comfortable against a strong offensive team with Rossi and Yagakucha? I mean, you've got a lot of power up there. So now you've got to debate: do we switch tactically and go to 4 in the back? Yeah. So I think that'll be an interesting look to see what Pat Noonan does Saturday.
Tyler, I think you're muted, but I think your mic.
Did you mute?
Technical difficulties. I don't know what is going on, man. After dark. Wow. Okay. Yeah. No, I think that question would be so much easier answered if it were not Columbus, because Columbus is such a good team overall. I mean, we've had a lot of folks here in the Atlanta community that they look at Columbus this year and they're like, man, that was like 2018 Atlanta United. It was so fun to watch.
Yep.
I don't know that Cincinnati is going to be able to just fundamentally change. No, they have the talent to do it, but I just don't know that they're going to be able to survive that. Columbus has all the momentum right now.
They've both done well. You can't disregard what Cincinnati's done throughout the whole year. They get the home game, they get the home fans. So derby game, everything you would want in a Eastern Conference final. So again, one mistake, one misread, one mismark, one transitional moment that the team's not ready for, one set piece in Houston against Sporting Kansas City could cost you a game. So listen, I look at this as a wonderful game, an even game. And the only downside is the Matt Miazga thing for Cincinnati. Besides that, they've got a lot of weapons, and same with Columbus. They can win on the road. They're a very good team on the road. They're very offensive minded. They pin you back. So we'll see. You know what I mean? The only one that knows who's going to win is who, the man above. He's got it all written out. So we just get to enjoy the ride and watch the 90 minutes.
Indeed. And then I'm excited to watch these two matches this weekend.
I
have to ask you, as you kind of look back over this entire season of MLS, any surprises in your mind, whether it's a team that performed better than you expected they would, or a team that maybe didn't quite catch on the way that you thought they would?
God, I think there was a lot of ups and downs. I think this was a very unusual year because the first time we had Leagues Cup, you had a break between regular play, and I think it threw a lot of teams off a little bit. Surprise, I think LA Galaxy surprised me that they weren't able to pull of what they did. My own team, Colorado Rapids, I was very disappointed in how the season went and what happened and how it went. But, I don't know, man. I looked at Atlanta and I saw Atlanta as one of those teams that if they caught the right momentum at the right time is a very dangerous team with a lot of great players. But again, it's a little here, a little there. God, huge surprises. How about San Jose? How's that for you? Lucci coming in and Lucci doing a fantastic job. St. Louis, absolutely fantastic. And I have no problem saying when we did the rankings, I had St. Louis at 13th in the West, 12th, 13th. And I'll be honest, I didn't know anything about them. I didn't know a lot of their players coming in. I think everybody thought the same thing. We're not sure about a new franchise. We're not really sure about some of these players. And they proved us all wrong. So if you're going to go for a surprise this year, St. Louis shocked everybody. Absolutely fantastic what they did. And you got to give them a lot of credit because I'm not sure. And you guys watch soccer too. I don't think you guys had them at number one at the beginning of the year. So what they did,
that says,
well, let's be honest. We all thought it's a new thing. They'll hit reality in the summertime. They didn't hit. You know when they hit reality? In the playoffs. Playoffs finally got to them.
Yeah, and that's where that experience comes from, right? We were talking about Peter Vermees and all. Yep. It's a different season once you get to the playoffs. Totally different ball game.
Well, I go back and I say, if you watch the way the New York Red Bulls play, they always press. By the end of the year, their legs are dead. This is a team physically put so much out there that it's tough to do that for 9 months. And I think we saw that in St. Louis a little bit. They ran out. And they met one of the hottest teams at the right time in Sporting Kansas City. And thanks for coming. You got eliminated. So you live and learn, but you can't take away what they did during the regular season.
100%. So to piggyback off that, then the playoffs as they are, right? We all know if MLS fans, like they're different. It's just different. It doesn't matter what you did for the most part in the regular season. Are the playoffs more or less shaken out the way that you thought with the teams that have kind of progressed, or have there been any big ones there for you?
I'm not gonna lie. I had Orlando in the final. I had Houston in the final, and only because Oscar has been there, and I thought this could be the year. I thought this was that one year that the team was just gliding and smooth and could get past that point. So they're really the only one that threw me for a loop in a big way. No, I'm not going to lie. It's St. Louis. St. Louis threw me for a loop. I didn't think that they would collapse like that. But the biggest one for me was Orlando because I had them, the way they play, the way they move the ball. And I think it was Schalke, I think the goalkeeper, right? For Columbus.
Schulte, yeah.
Schulte. He played out of his mind. I haven't seen a keeper play like that in a long time, making a foot save, making a hand save. I mean, anything and everything possible. I felt like I was watching Spider-Man, man. He was all over the place. So again, but that's what it takes, right? That's what it takes to beat a very good team. Your goalkeeper making great saves, making point blank stops. So, but Orlando surprised me a little bit. They're the only one that really threw my bracket out of whack.
Yeah. And we were talking before you came on. I mean, Orlando, of course, went down to 10 men. Of course, Schlegel, maybe a rush of blood, take what's the last man back, take his man down. They came inches away from winning the match, actually. That really surprised me.
Yep.
Columbus were a little bit sloppy at times, nearly gave the match away before they kind of ran out of steam before Orlando ran out of steam and Columbus scored those 2 goals in extra time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I kind of thought they'd go a little bit farther than they did as well. So I agree.
Yeah, a little unorganized, and that's not normally Oscar's team, because a 40-50 yard ball over the back line of your defenders where there's no pressure on the ball. The first thing we teach our kids, the first thing I laud, if there's no pressure on the ball, you drop off. You let them play in front of you, not behind you. And when I saw that ball hit, I'm like, why were the defenders so high? Why were they, you know what I mean? It was really, and again, maybe you get caught up in the play, you're looking somewhere else, but credit to Columbus. They did what they needed to do, and they got out of there with a wonderful win. And hopefully we'll see a similar Columbus Crew in Cincinnati.
Yeah, definitely. So you played in the league for several years, of course, with Columbus or Colorado Rapids for a number of years. And look at MLS today versus when you played in MLS is much different. So talk about the changes to the league versus when you played. What are some of the changes that have really surprised you, not just from a player acquisition standpoint, but sort of the way matches are played, how the league has been received in markets like Atlanta, Nashville?
That's a loaded question, my friend, because you can't compare what we did to what's going on now. Because when we came to this league, most of us, I left Mexico, Tab left Spain, Winaldo was in Germany, Tab was in Spain, Peter was in Spain. So there was a lot of national team players already in Europe. So when we came to this league, we all wanted to see this league succeed. So we all left our club teams to come back to help start what we see now as MLS. And we did appearances where we were standing outside of liquor stores, waving at people on a main street. We flew chartered flights where we had to get up at 5 a.m. after we played a game at 7:30 at night, flying coach seats, flying in the middle. So we didn't get fed like they get fed now. We don't have charters. We didn't have soccer stadiums. We played at the Rose Bowl. We played at the Horseshoe. We played in a lot of football stadiums wherever we went. So to compare now and then, no. But to see the evolution of what, and I'm going to give credit to a lot of the guys from that 96 to that 2000, we laid a pretty good foundation that MLS could build on. And by the time we were done, the next generation took on. Hey, listen, we've had our ups and downs. Let's be honest. The league has been great. It's been bad. It's been great. It's been bad. But it's consistently been fighting with other sports to be recognized as that 5th sport in the United States. And then this little thing called Columbus Crew decided to build a soccer-specific stadium. Imagine that, a soccer-specific stadium. And we're all like, oh, my Lord, this is what it's like to play in a real soccer stadium in the United States. And it was awesome. And then the next phase was, what's that guy's name? David Beckham decided to come to the United States, and he flipped this league on its head. Let's be honest. Everybody in the world knew the LA Galaxy and the recognition we got. So there's been little phases throughout the transition of the 29 something odd years that this league has been going. And you have your ups and you have your downs, you have your dips. That's part of any league in the world, except for the EPL. For some reason, that fantasy league, everybody watches and it's awesome. Yeah. So when you have as much money as they do. So the next phase for us was designated players, buying younger players, the Almadas of the world. Those kind of players started coming in, the Pooches of the world, or the LA Galaxy. Now you're starting to transition from a league that finally started investing in younger players. And we saw that when Tata Martino came in Atlanta's first few years. Look at the players he brought in. I mean, it was incredible how these players trusted him to come in. They win their championship. They kind of set the model a little bit of what MLS was, the future looked like. Now we get to a point at present time. These guys are, I mean, they're being fed. They're doing this. I mean, they're treated so well, finally like a professional sport. And then this miracle happens called Lionel Messi. Lionel Messi is going to flip this league over. And you talk about cartwheel after cartwheel, what Miami's doing now and what they've been doing and what they're going to do. It's going to force everybody to step their game up and invest more money to keep up with what they're doing. And that's what this league's about. The more money that's there, the more money you can invest in players, the more. That's what people want to see. Let's be honest. People wanted to see, when you guys won a championship, who did they want to see? Yeah. Your stars.
Yep.
Right?
Joseph and Miggy.
Exactly. Now you look at when LA Galaxy won. Who do they want to see? The Landon Donovans, the Robbie Keanes, the Marcelo Sarvises. You can keep going down the list. The David Beckhams. Look at that group. When Zlatan came, LA Galaxy went crazy with selling out. So now everywhere Messi goes, the Messi crew goes, it sells out. So I think now that next phase is, how do we get those Griezmanns? How do we get those, Moratas? How do we get those kind of Modric? How do we still get those kind of players that will, you imagine having a huge name in every team in the league. So somebody comes in, you're going to see whatever, let's say Ronaldo in LA, he comes to go play. You know what I mean? It's going to come down to the star power too. Star power is huge. Listen, the ratings in La Liga when Messi and Ronaldo were there were the best you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Right? They left. What happened? They've dropped.
Yep.
French league, when Messi went there with Mbappe and Neymar, what happened to those ratings? Everybody wanted to see PSG play. Now everybody wants to see Miami play.
Yep.
So we're moving in the right direction. And to be honest, thankful that with Apple and everything that they're doing, taking over the league and taking that initiative of making it a global sport now, or anybody in the world. I mean, I've got relatives in Argentina that can watch the damn game. Imagine that fun. So it's pretty cool. It was just, it's phases, and we're not there yet. Let's be honest. We're 29, 30 years new compared to leagues that have been around 100 years. So we're getting there. Yeah.
Well, and you kind of answered the next question. Messi's the big catalyst, right? Like that's the next big step.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost unfair, really, for such a young, quote unquote, young league to get that kind of a boost.
But why is it unfair?
Well, I'm saying, I mean, if you're looking at like from outside in, everybody's like, well, why can't he come to our country? And we got lucky. I'll say lucky.
That's what. Listen, we got to take advantage of, when you get players like this, you got to take advantage of the marketing. You got to take advantage of everything possible
100%.
Because it's a limited time. It's a limited time of what he's going to play in MLS. And listen, him being a part owner in Miami is different than him being a player. Wherever he goes, that pink right now is the hottest selling jersey I think MLS has ever had. And we got to ride the wave. We got to learn how to keep marketing this, and how do we prepare? Because you can't just say we're going to ride the wave for 2 years or 2.5 years, and then we'll see what happens. No. You got to start preparing now for after Messi. Yep. What are you going to do when Messi leaves? Who are you going to bring in? What are you going to do next? So it's a great phase, but we've also got to be prepared for when he decides to call it quits. Who is going to take that initial bump of attendance? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because you mentioned the best-selling jersey, right? So really quick side story. I just got back from Munich. Went to go see the Allianz. Went to go see Bayern Munich, all the other good stuff.
Yep.
Unlucky. It was international break, so I didn't actually get to see a game, whatever. But I got screwed. But seeing pink Inter Miami jerseys in Munich, Germany.
Oh yeah,
is wild to me. It's just crazy. But it speaks to that worldwide kind of phenomenon. I mean, you can buy Apple TV wherever and watch it anywhere.
Yeah, man. That's the beauty of it. No matter where you live in the world, you can have friends in Uruguay that are watching a game. So, at the end of the day, listen, I was smart enough. As soon as I saw Messi was coming, I bought my Messi jersey.
Yeah.
I bought one for myself. I bought one for my son. I bought one for my dad, and we got them early, so we were happy. But
there you go.
Finding that right now is tough. But again, it's the same thing when Beckham came here. When you went to England, you saw LA Galaxy David Beckham jerseys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So again, it's awesome what Miami's done. They've set the bar even higher.
Right.
And the only way we're going to keep growing as a country in soccer and as a league is by investing money in players like this. And listen, Almada won a world. He is a World Cup champion in your town. How freaking cool is that?
Yep.
And the way he's playing within a year or two, I hate to say it, but it's a business. He will be sold for big money. Now it's going to be Atlanta's job to find the next Almada to make sure you keep building that team. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned Argentina winning the World Cup in 2022. I have a Lady United question for you, but I want to take you back to 86. The last time they won the World Cup, Argentina.
Yeah.
We all know the most famous moment of that tournament. A guy named Maradona in the
hand of God
in Mexico. Take us back to that day. Where were you and what were you doing when that was going on?
One, I'm thankful there's no VAR back in those days. You know what I mean? So, and I'm very thankful that there was no VAR when I played.
Right.
So, I was just finished high school. I was going to junior college, and we were at home watching the game with mom and pops. So, I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't a big fan of watching soccer back then, but when you got a chance, when your dad's Argentinian, he's like,
right,
come sit right here. We're watching Argentina. And it was more fun to watch my dad and my mom celebrate and scream and cry and how emotional they got. Even to this day, when I gave my dad his jersey, he started crying. He couldn't say a word. He was just crying. That's how much he loves his country. And he's been here for 40 something odd years. Yeah. So, or much more than that, 55 years. So it's fun to watch. You know, I mean, I love Argentina, don't get me wrong, but to watch mom and dad, and especially my mom and dad running around the house, that's weird to me. Yeah. You know, we were a kid, but they're screaming and yelling. And when we were kids, my mom and dad, we couldn't get the Argentine games back in the old days, you know. Right. So we would listen to River Plate on the radio, or we would listen to the Argentine national team play on the radio, on the Argentine radios with the radios. I mean, our radio, I think, was the size of our TV nowadays. It was blocked.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's where us as kids develop that passion to see our parents celebrate and run and get so excited and just be in that moment. You know, I mean, it's not easy to win a World Cup. And it didn't really hit me until this last World Cup. I see Argentina win, and next thing you know, I've got tears running down my face. And I was just like, holy crap. You know what I mean? Because my first team's the United States. I played for the U.S. I represented them. But to see the excitement and knowing that my mom and dad are at home, probably in tears crying right now, you know, it's just a family thing, man. It's so passionate with how they love and follow soccer. And to be honest, and if it wasn't for those two, there's a good chance you wouldn't be talking to me, or I wouldn't have played on the national team, or I wouldn't be playing in MLS, or I wouldn't be a pro soccer player. You know what I mean? So I got a lot to thank them for.
And that's what it's all about, right? Like my kids, my oldest two especially, because they're the ones playing right now. But watching that World Cup, the final, I remember not very long into it, turning to them and saying, y'all take this in, because not only is this a very historical moment, but this is one of the best soccer matches in general you will probably ever watch. So, and tears for sure at the end. And I've got no real ties to Argentina at all. But I was like, man, I'm happy for Messi. I'm happy for him, you know?
Now, listen, to my girlfriend's laughing because she hasn't heard a lot of these stories, so she's giggling over there.
Hey.
Enjoying life. You're just on to there. Say hi. Say hi. Yeah. There you go. Hello. So that's probably got to be the best, because when you talk about finals, you talk about teams playing tentative. You talk about teams sitting back. You talk about a very defensive-minded game. You know, one team attacks, the other one drops into a low block. The other team tries to hit you in transition. They foul you. The other team drops back, and it becomes into, you know, typical final. But this final was freaking awesome. two teams going at each other. I mean, the overtime was ridiculous. So the penalties were ridiculous. So, and you go back, I say, listen, there's been a lot of good games, but that's got to be probably the best final where two of the stars lived up to the billing. They put their teams on their back. They carried their freaking team. And I hate when it comes down to penalty kicks, but rock on to Argentina, you know what I mean, for winning it. But it was 100% the best final I've ever seen.
Yeah. Very memorable. Quite a match. Gonna ask you a question about Eleni, and that as promised. So this is a big winter window for them coming up, and Carlos and Garth have a lot to do in filling these positions of need.
Yep.
What are some areas where you see, from kind of a neutral vantage point, that you could see them legitimately making a play for on the field just to get themselves better?
God, I'll say this. And this is a broadcaster. I love soccer, so I watch all the teams. In order to win a championship, you got to have a strong defense. And I think when you have so many offensive-minded players from the midfield forward, you become very dangerous. But you spend a lot of your money in those positions. And for me, the back five, and I include the goalkeeper, back four, with all due respect, trust me, people have told me before, they would be better if Balboa wasn't playing. Rock on. And it's got nothing to do with that. But if you're going to win a championship, you got to upgrade that back line. That, for me.
Figured you'd say that.
Well, because tell me where there's a weakness going forward. Tell me where there's a weakness in the midfield. Tell me where there's a weakness up front.
100%.
You had a weakness, and you picked up somebody that scored 14, 15 goals for you. You're like, oh, okay, we have no more weakness there.
Yep.
So now you got to start evaluating, and you start from the goalkeeper, the back line. Those five there, to me, is where you win a championship. You know what I mean? So that's probably, unless, and I don't know who you're losing. I don't know whose contracts are out. But I think when you're talking about Atlanta, you're talking about upgrading the back line a little bit defensively, because going forward, I put you guys right up there with Columbus, with LAFC, with some of Seattle, some of the high potent offensive minded teams. Do we disagree or do we agree?
No, I mean, you mentioned players that might be going. Miles could be in Europe. I mean, it's pretty much all but certain that he'll be gone.
You know what? But if Carlos is smart, you put a Walker Zimmerman label on him. You put a Aaron Long label on him, where he deserves $2 to $3 million as a defender, and you keep him.
Yeah, that's the thing that we're not too sure about. I mean, Zimmerman, of course, is a DP. We're not too sure that Atlanta are willing to do that, considering Robinson's injury history. So I think that plays into. We feel like it's probably a high TAM deal that he's getting versus a DP. So I think that's part of it. But it sounds like he's leaving. Abram from Peru is in the defense. Barata was on loan. He's going back to Mexico. So that's a hole that definitely Atlanta needs to fill.
Yeah.
But I agree with you.
Remember, these are negotiations that will happen in the next 4 months, and they could be back.
Yeah. And, being at the training ground.
Yeah.
And asking Carlos, what about Miles? What about Miles? And his answer is always, we have, basically the best possible offer we can give him at this point, which, take that for what it's worth, right? That could be anything. But
listen, not everybody can make it in Europe. So you give him the opportunity to go. That's fine. But you always have that backup plan if he doesn't. You know what I mean? Listen, Europe's not for everybody. Let's be honest. Eddie Pope didn't go to Europe, and he was one of the best defenders the U.S. had, right?
Yeah.
He decided he wanted to stay here. He wanted to work hard. He wanted to play in the World Cup. Out of sight, out of mind sometimes. So it all depends what Miles wants. The injury before the World Cup, it's part of soccer. Ask Chris Armas. He's our coach now. Ask Chris Armas. He missed World Cups because of the last-minute injuries. Yeah. So that's normal. Ask Stu Holden. Yeah. What happened to him, you know what I mean? And throughout his career. So if you're going to worry about him getting an injury or him tearing an ACL, it's just part of life, man. It's part of life. But I still rate him in the top 5 center backs in this league.
Yeah.
And I put him 5 right now because he's coming back from an injury. And I hate to say it, and please don't shoot me. Playing on turf is not easy. Once you have an ACL, you come back from it. It's not the easiest thing to do to play comfortable. So, there's a lot of things that come into effect, but he's to me, he's still one of the top 5 center backs in this league.
I'm so glad you said that, because we had a whole diatribe earlier about turf and grass and that whole 9 yards, because we were talking about Copa America and the national teams and all, and Mercedes-Benz Stadium is going to be the opener, which is a great segue. Then this is I know you got to get out of here. Want to be sensitive to your time for sure. Direction, thoughts, whatever you want to say on the national team, the U.S. national team right now. What do they do? Where do they go?
Listen, again, I'm not a coach. I'm an analyst. I'm a passionate guy for my sport. And you know what? You're going to have ups and downs. That's reality. I would like to see this team be a little bit more offensive minded. I would love to see the rings let loose a little bit. You know what I mean? Like they say in the song, "Let the dogs out." Let them go. Let them go. There's times, and there are times where you have to cut back and you hold back, but there's times where you can let them run. You've got so many talented players. The hardest part is trying to get that many talented players to play under the same system. That's always the hardest part for Greg. So I think he's doing a nice job of that. But there's no way you lose to Trinidad, even with 10 players. No offense, but you shouldn't lose. You shouldn't lose that game. So at the end of the day, you keep pushing forward. We still got a ways before the World Cup. I think Copa America is going to be a huge bar-setting moment for this national team, because playing against the best. Now, this isn't Argentina bringing a B team. This isn't Chile bringing a B team. This is everybody coming full strength. So I think this will set the groundwork leading into 2026. And at the end of the day, that tournament could cost probably 2 to 3 coaches their jobs if they don't do well.
100%. And I'm curious to see how it plays out.
We're thinking it's probably going to be U.S. Argentina for the opener. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Can't.
Is that kind of...
They can't. They're both in the same pod. They're in pod 1.
Okay.
So the Argentina, the U.S., Mexico, and I think it's Brazil. I think I'm off one, but I think those are in the first pod. So they cannot play each other unless they get into a quarter or a semi. Thank God. I don't want to go through that. That's, you know what? That's too good of a setup to play the first game. Because then after that, what do you think of the U.S.? You're like, you know what I mean? So, I think it'll be, I think when you look at the pods and who it could be an interesting group. This is going to be a very good test for the United States. And to see what they can do. This isn't Gold Cup. This is the best South American teams. So I think that'll set kind of the bar of what's going to happen what's going to happen in 2025 and 26.
Yeah, absolutely. Indeed. All right. Again, apologies for the.
No, it wasn't you. It was me. I thought you guys were calling me. I called Kurt. Kurt's like, "Oh, here's the link." I'm like, "Great, we're good."
He was like, "I'm on a plane. I'm over here. Like, we're just talking." And I'm like texting Kirk, and he's like, "I'm on a plane." Crap. I was like, "It's all good."
I didn't know if it was. I was thinking, going, "Okay, are they calling me?" I look at my girlfriend. I go, "It's 5:45." I'm looking through my text. I'm like, "Okay, did I miss something? Did I miss an email?" We made it work.
We made it work.
We got you on. That's all that matters.
Yeah. And you are you're welcome back anytime. By all means, if you're
you can have me anytime you like. All you got to do is let me know, and I'm there.
100%. We appreciate it. If you're in the Benz next year at any point, calling an Atlanta game,
I will be in the Benz at December 13th. U.S. Soccer is doing that grand opening celebration thing for the new soccer house there. So I will be there on December 13th.
Okay, maybe we'll see you then, possibly.
Yeah.
So
let's hope.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Good to have you on. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Marcelo Balboa.
Great
stuff. Interview.
Absolutely. And we
broke a little news there, I feel like.
I know,
the great
right?
Opening of December 13th.
a little bit of I've heard little bits and pieces of that for sure, but I mean, maybe he knows something we didn't actually have verified. I don't know, but
that's a bummer though that U.S. and Argentina got put in the same pot.
I didn't even think about that. He said the pod, and I was like, oh crap, I totally didn't even think about that.
Me neither.
But valid point.
Any final thoughts before we get out of here? We did our predictions.
Yeah.
Before you
No,
come
I mean,
on, so.
again, thanks again to Marcelo and MLS in general, just for, letting us have these guys and gals week in and week out. And 100% we appreciate Marcelo and everybody else that comes on.
He mentioned Kirk. Kirk is Kirk Reynolds, who works in PR for MLS. And
yes,
Kirk Reynolds has been doing a fantastic job putting these interviews together for us week in and week out, like he said. From Marcelo to Keith Costigan to Jake Zivin, Taylor Twellman, Kevin, who's come on a couple of times, Kevin Egan, Kendra DeSinabin. The list goes on. I'm forgetting some, but
I feel like we've been through almost the entire
right
commentating crew for the matches at some point. Well, we still got a few to go through, but yeah, Kurt, if you're listening, I know you're on a plane. I don't know if you can get it on the plane, but we special shout out to him for sure, because
appreciate it.
Definitely made this much easier this year to get guests on, and it's been awesome. Love the insight from all the guys and gals across MLS, and then all of our Atlanta folks as well. Not going to forget about them. So,
Conti and Lakeshore, we love you.
Yes,
of course. We greatly appreciate you, I should say.
No, I've got nothing
guys.
else. I think that's it. This is a good episode, even though it was a little backwards. We made it work, and it was fun.
Yeah. Next week we'll be talking about MLS Cup, so hopefully you all can join us then.
Yep. And then that'll be it for the season, but it will not be it for us. We will still be doing episodes. We're going to have Longshore on. We're going to have some other Atlanta based folks on, probably some more MLS folks. So we're not going anywhere. You guys are stuck with us through the holidays and into the new year.
All right. So thanks again for watching, listening. Tommy, of course, going to make it, unfortunately, to the illness, but he'll be back hopefully next week. And with that, we'll roll the music and the credits and get out of here.
And we will see y'all on the website and over on Patreon.
Yes.
Come join.
Thanks as always. Really appreciate you all. Like, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If you aren't following us, at Scars Solana and Spikes on X, at Scars and Spikes on Instagram, and Threads as well. And we'll see you next time.
Peace.
So long.